life on other planets. Apparently, a lot of people who do work in the U.S. government, which secretly over the years, we now learned, has spent millions on a program that investigated UFO reports. So what did they find, and does that person? He joins us tonight with the outcome. Hey, Brett.
Hey, Tucker. Yes, we have fearlessly reported on previous reports of UFO sightings, or what the military sometimes calls unexplained aerial phenomena, detailed by Navy pilots and other members of the military. Now, it's a situation that the Pentagon piqued the world's interest in when they released some declassified documents that made it clear the government is keeping an eye on the skies and potential UFOs a bit closer than anyone would have expected. Now, that release included the now infamous video from 2017 of what is clearly some kind of flying object that honestly does not match any of the physics I remember learning about or any aircraft design any of us have ever seen outside of science fiction. But the story actually got a little more interesting. It turns out former U.S. Senator Harry Reid of Nevada put together a multi-million-dollar investigation into the Pentagon's UFO files, and it included a real-life Fox Mulder tasked with cataloging not just those documents related to UFO reports, but also to collect actual debris. In fact, a company was hired to modify buildings in Las Vegas to store metal alloys and other materials that were reportedly from sites where these unexplained events happened. Now, people who have had encounters have been tested for any physical changes. Military personnel were interviewed about what they saw. Now, we know what some of them saw from the 2017 video captured over the Pacific, when multiple military officers confirmed this mysterious sighting, including pilots and radar technicians. Now, the program to catalog then reveal to the public what was found has been canceled. Tracking UFOs by the military isn't stopping. In fact, they're going to keep it for a simple reason. The military needs to know who is doing this and what their intent is. Now, unfortunately, this means we may not get to see those detailed reports, those mind-blowing videos, or as one of the pilots said of something seen out his window, truly radical technology. All the data they collect may simply end up in a chart that shows an uptick in sightings and their locations as we all collectively wait for those documents to be declassified. I want to know where it's coming from, and I want a tour of this warehouse to see these metal alloys. This is kind of amazing.
Well, since they say they have multiple sightings per month.
Yeah, this isn't like a once a year, or maybe you can't excuse it as a falling star. This is happening a lot.
No, it's not a drunk guy in a field in New Hampshire. No,
these are very well-trained pilots and military personnel.
Yeah, guys with nuclear payloads who are kind of sober.
You're hoping they know what they're looking at, and I want to know what they're seeing.
I do, too. Brett Larson, thank you very much. There's something going on in the skies above us. Even the government isn't certain exactly what it is. Recently declassified documents show that U.S. government has for years maintained a program that investigated the health effects of UFO encounters on those who saw them. Meanwhile, in response to the news that it's crafting a new UFO reporting system, the Navy, the U.S. Navy, has openly admitted to repeated. He was totally right, and he joins us tonight. We're glad to have him. So, Nick, first to the news that the U.S. government has investigated the health effects of contact with UFOs. What does that mean?
Well, this is a part of the Pentagon's ATIP program that studied these unexplained phenomena. And it's a part that we haven't heard much about. Everyone's been concentrating on the videos of the Navy jets chasing the UFOs. But if you go back to Harry Reid's letter to the Department of Defense, he describes this in terms of the human interface and human effects aspect of the program. And then recently, more recently, when the DIA wrote to Congress about this, in amongst all the papers on exotic propulsion systems that they produced was a paper entitled Field Effects on Biological Tissues. And it seems as if what they were interested in is the effects of all this on the people that witnessed it. And I understand that this involved, for example, things like blood samples, DNA tests, and other medical tests and procedures.
So, I mean, what this really tells us is that UFO encounters are so common that they worried about the health effects of those encounters on Americans. So there's really no question that the U.S. government has known for a long time that something profound is going on. I'm not saying they know what it is, but they've lied about that. Why have they lied about that for so long? It's bewildering.
Well, I think there are very difficult defence and national security issues here. And there is also this blurring of the lines. We don't know, we really don't, whether with some of these things we're talking about Russians, Chinese, right, or something from, shall we say, farther afield than that. And so there's embarrassment. The other point is you can't say we've lost control of our own airspace. But I did a cold case review on a case in the UK where it turned out some military witnesses were probably exposed to UAP radiation. Now, UAP is the British government term for UFO, unidentified aerial phenomena, and these people are now trying to get medical settlements for health issues that they attribute to these close encounters.
It's almost like there's a whole kind of parallel worlds going on where these stories are addressed, but the rest of us are not even aware of it. And we sort of know that there are these UFO nuts, but it turns out lots of sober, well-educated people have been devoting an awful lot of time to studying this stuff for decades. And I'm just amazed that we didn't know.
Well, the Ministry of Defence was studying it, the Department of Defence here and the Defence Intelligence Agency. And, of course, as you said in your introduction, just last week the Navy have announced a new policy on this to encourage their pilots and their radar operators to come forward and speak out, to destigmatise it. I support that. It's unfortunate that we're not going to get, apparently, the data that's actually produced under this. I hope we can get unclassified summaries, and I certainly hope we can get, for example, a copy of the guidance that they say they've just issued on this, because that will give us some clues as to what's going on here.
Why the hell isn't the Today Show leading with this every morning for the next 10 years? Is there a more interesting story? I don't think there is. Nick Pope, I know you agree with that. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely I do. And look, you know, if the Navy want to diffuse all this UFO hysteria...
States, even the U.S. Navy isn't certain what is going on. The Navy did just confirm that it is drafting new guidelines for personnel to report encounters with, quote, unidentified aircraft. The goal is to destigmatize the sightings of advanced, very high-speed aircraft that have been seen quite frequently approaching Navy ships and facilities without explanation. The Navy issued a statement that said, in part, this, quote, there have been a number of reports of unauthorized and/or unidentified aircraft entering various military control ranges and designated airspace in recent years. For safety and security concerns, the Navy and the U.S. Air Force take these reports very seriously and investigate each and every report. As part of this effort, the Navy is updating and formalizing the process by which reports of any such suspected incursions can be made to the cognizant authorities, unquote. Chris Mellon is a former Pentagon intelligence official. He's closely involved in the History Channel's upcoming 6-part series, Unidentified, Inside America's UFO Investigation. He joins us tonight. Chris, thanks very much for coming on. So we've gone in a pretty short period of time from the U.S. military not really acknowledging that there is such a thing to them acknowledging that these sightings are so frequent they need a formal process for reporting them. What's changed?
Yes, thank you, Tucker. It's an extraordinary turnaround, and it's really the result of an interaction between Congress and the Navy. And the fact that this has gotten on Congress's radar began some discussions which elevated an issue that before this time had been smothered and kept at low levels of the bureaucracy. So now you have more senior policymaking officials hearing in some cases firsthand from the aviators involved and other personnel. They're learning the reality of the issue, and they're asking some direct and sometimes tough questions. And so this has elevated this entire issue within the department, and kudos to both for engaging and really listening to our men and women in uniform who've been squelched in the past, who've really been treated with disdain sometimes for reporting what's happening.
Well, I mean, and pilots, of course, are trained to discern between aircraft and weather balloons. So, like, if there's one group you should listen to, it's pilots. How often are these sightings reported? Do we know?
We don't know. We believe that probably 8 or 9 times out of 10, they are not reported when there's an encounter. We know from numerous debriefings and interviews that individuals in squadrons, when they bring a story forward, they're the only individual in their squadron usually who's willing to do so or have that discussion. We see the same thing among commercial airline pilots. It's not career enhancing, to say the least. We know these individuals are often ridiculed, and were in the past, which is partly why this is such an important development. They're saying it's a legitimate issue now. You can talk about it.
So, but what do they think? I mean, I was just reading this morning, some of these sightings, again, by military pilots who know the difference, estimate that these are objects moving at 15,000 miles per hour, for example. I mean, that's so much faster than any object, human-made object, has ever traveled that we're aware of. So what do they think that is? What's the going theory on this?
Yeah, this is tough terrain. There are three hypotheses that people have put forward, and none of them are very comfortable. One is that one of our adversaries has leapfrogged us technologically, China or Russia. Putin has been making some extraordinary claims about Russian technology. Another theory is that these are some test aircraft of the U.S. I think we can discard that now with the Navy itself acknowledging these are not American. And the third popular theory, of course, is that these may be from some civilization elsewhere beyond our solar system. And none of these theories are very comfortable to contemplate, but we have to look at facts and derive theories from facts, not start with theories and disrule or rule out facts.
I mean, I hope this will get us a lot closer to doing this. Just very quickly, are the results of these surveys going to be made public at any point?
To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences, my colleagues and I, we have drafted some proposed legislation for Congress to consider. It would simply ask for a report on this. It wouldn't cost any money. Right now,
let's demand one, shall we?
One of the problems is,
really quick.
One of the problems is nobody's in charge, and these organizations don't share information, so the information isn't pooled or analyzed.
Right. Well, that's the story of government. Chris, thanks so much for everything you do. Great to see you. Back 8 p.m.